My name is Samuel Rowe, and again we want to talk with you about Chapter 10, which is entitled Capital Punishment. I hope you've had a chance to read the chapter. This is going to be only a very short and brief overview of the chapter. Capital punishment, as you may or may not know, is also synonymously known as the death penalty. And capital punishment and the death penalty has been with us for many years. And there are several key terms I would suggest that you review in your textbook, terms such as retributive justice, distributive justice, punishment, utilitarianism. All of those terms you'll find defined in your textbook. There's a couple other terms that I think your author also mentions, which is abolitionists and retentionists. Both of those terms are referred to in your textbook. Capital punishment has been with us since probably the beginning of time. The capital crimes that we find that are usually punishable by death in the West include things such as rape, this is in the past, horse theft, kidnapping, treason, sodomy, spying. Then back in the probably early 17th, 18th century, we had things such as witchcraft and also blasphemy. Now, and if you go even back further to the medieval periods, we had certain examples of execution that included such things as execution through crucifixion. Those of you who may be familiar with Christianity are probably aware of the process that was used to execute Jesus, which was crucifixion. During the Middle Ages, there was drawing and quartering and burning alive. Those were all good examples of methods that were used for execution. In modern days, we've used such things as hanging, firing squads, lethal injection, lethal gas, and electrocution. Currently, the most popular form of capital punishment or execution today happens to be lethal injection. There are a number of statistics that you might want to also refer to in your textbook related to capital punishment, which is things such as the number of prisoners that are on death row, the number executed by state. Then there's some statistics related to the ethnic background of those who have been executed, stating that in I think 2002 that roughly 41% of the 65 persons that were 41 persons of the 65 persons who were executed were white, 20 were black, 3 were Hispanic, and 1 was Native American. We know that there are a number of states and also including the District of Columbia, some 12 states and the District of Columbia that do not practice capital punishment. And about 64 to 80% of American adults favor the use of capital punishment in capital trials. Most countries have already abolished capital punishment. 75 countries and territories currently employ capital punishment. In 2004, 90% of all executions that were carried out by China. I think it's China and the U.S. probably carries out more capital punishment crimes or penalties than any other country in the world. Let's talk a little bit about a couple of the major Supreme Court rulings related to capital punishment. 1972, you had the Furman versus Georgia, in which the Supreme Court ruled that capital punishment was unconstitutional and it violated the 8th Amendment. In 1976, in the Woodson versus North Carolina Supreme Court case, it made that capital punishment was mandatory, but in the mandatory state, it also said it was unconstitutional. One of the most significant capital punishment trials to come before the Supreme Court was in 1976, which was Gregg versus Georgia. And it said that the death penalty laws should prescribe proper guidelines that were constitutional under certain cases that included murder. In 2002, we had the Atkins versus Virginia, and it said that executing a mentally retarded person was unconstitutional and unusually cruel punishment. And in 2005, we had Roper versus Simmons, and it said that it was unconstitutional to execute persons who were under the age of 18. It was also the violation of the Eighth Amendment. There are a number of types of cases that are actually punishable by killing. Usually it includes things such as first-degree murder, which is usually premeditated, or murder that occurs while performing a felony, such as robbery or kidnapping or rape. Second-degree murder without premeditation, but with some degree of intent. And then manslaughter has been, and sometimes in certain states is punishable by death. And that might include crimes of passion and maybe drunk driving. So I would caution you to be aware of these kinds of things as you are practicing activities in your own life. One of the major arguments that has oftentimes been advocated about this issue of capital punishment is related to the expense of housing a capital crime inmate. There are several theories related to punishment, and those theories one is retribution, and that is that we make sure that a person who has committed a crime is getting just punishment for the crime. The problem that I personally have with this particular theory of retribution is that we very seldom are able to give equal punishment for equal crime. If you take retribution, a retributive punishment literally, it would mean that if a person is found guilty of killing your mother, then what we do in terms of equal retribution is we kill their mother. If they raped your daughter, we'd rape their daughter. So there's a real problem in this retributive punishment technique or strategy. There are several moral theories that have actually been advocated related to capital punishment. One of the theories that we talked about back in chapter 5, which was utilitarianism. Oftentimes ethicists and philosophers refer to this particular theory as a means of justifying capital punishment. And that theory talks about the greatest good for the greatest number. And so we actually use the utilitarian theory to argue that what we're doing by eliminating or punishing by death a person who's committed a capital crime is that we are creating an environment that makes the environment, by executing this person, it becomes the greatest good for the community at large. Another theory that's sometimes advocated in this whole argument is one that we've also talked about earlier, and it's the Kantian theory or deontology. And Immanuel Kant actually talks about that in this theory that we're looking at the uniqueness of what happens of the individual, and so we judge the person as an individual. And Kant says that we cannot use a categorical imperative to justify capital punishment. He says that would we be willing to allow everybody to be punished and make this a rule for everybody when they commit this crime? Again, I just wanted to give you just a short overview of the chapter. I want to encourage you to read the chapter, do the case studies at the end of the chapter, read some of the primary source readings at the end of the chapter, study all of the key terms that are also listed throughout the chapter, and we'll be getting back with you on the next chapter in a very few minutes. Again, thank you for your attention today, and good luck on your study of capital punishment, or chapter 10.